Major support for these programs is provided by Bank of America Merrill Lynch and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, Greenberg Traurig, LLP, M&T Bank, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chelsea Lighting. Additional support is provided by Briarwood Organization, Bruce Mosler, Capital One Bank, Cassidy Turley, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman & Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Douglaston Development, DDG Partners, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, Friedman LLP, Accountants and Advisors, Flushing Bank, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Genova Burns, Giantomasi and Webster, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Centurion Holdings, Corman Communities, Madison Realty Capital, Margolin, Weiner and Evans, LLP, Certified Public Accountants and Business Advisors, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Sterling and Sterling, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, the Wickoff Group, Urban American, and Ackman Ziff Real Estate, Aerial Property Advisors, Eastern Consolidated, Essex Capital Partners, Goldman Properties, Moynihan Group, Muss Development, RAL Development Services, the Spandrel Group, LLC, Rosewood Realty Group, Terra CRG, Triangle Equities.
So there are women who are interesting, unique, and have done so much in their career. So today I have a person who's in the design, who's been a former model, who's a mother, a grandmother, a bubba, and who's a wonderful person. I have Renée Greenstein, who is from Attitudes by Renée, and also the proprietor of a company called Two Chicks in the Backroom. I'm happy to have you today.
Well, how are you? You had to put in the grandmother, right?
Wait a second. A child bride, you know. Okay, so let's talk about this. You have a very unique family tree growing back. Let's go. There's Ethiopian, there's Scottish, there's German, there's American Indian, and then more important, you're a Canadian. Oh, Canada. So you grew up in Canada, and then I have no idea how this happened. You ended up in Pennsylvania at an all-girl
Catholic college.
That's interesting for a Jewish girl.
Yes.
Because your mother was Jewish, okay, and so
I was brought up Jewish.
Okay,
yes.
you growing up as a Jew, so you went there and you went for theology.
Majored in theology, yes.
And what happened? You decided
I had an awakening.
What was the awakening? Yes.
That it really wasn't what I wanted to do. And my bubby had said that I should go into journalism, and there are times that I say maybe I should have listened to her. But somehow she must have known that I had some sort of talent to do what I do today.
So you're in Pennsylvania. Did you ever, when you were growing up, did you spend any time in New York City? I mean, you were Canadian.
A little time every once in a while.
So you come, now, you didn't finish college?
No, I didn't.
You didn't finish
left
college.
First year, came to New York.
And you come to New York City.
As a puppy.
As a puppy. And what do you come to New York City to do?
Try to find myself, start a career. I didn't want to go to college anymore. I loved fashion.
So did you enroll at the Fashion Institute at that time?
I went for a small time. I mean, it was, I guess I was just feeling myself. I was very, very young. I went there for a little bit. And one of the teachers had said to me, I couldn't draw. I had no, way of, my sketching is sticks. But he said to me, you have a vision, don't ever give it up. So I remember things like that.
Now, it's interesting because Fashion Institute is you know, on 7th Avenue and like 28th Street, and one of your first jobs was working in the fur business, right?
Yes.
What was High's?
Hi, Rifkin.
Hi Rifkin,
Yes.
who
Bradley Furs.
Bradley Furs, who had the furs for certain people like Bess Meyerson, right?
Yes.
And what are you doing at Bradley Furs?
Bradley Furs. I went there for a job as a model. You know, not being that tall, but being that I had long legs, and they liked me.
So you were putting on the silks and the minks,
I was
or the
putting
Stoll
on
Martens?
I was putting on the furs, which I kind of liked.
And how long do you stay in the fur trade?
I would say about a year.
But that's when you were putting coats on.
Right.
And then what happens is you leave the fur business and you go to Act One. Right?
Yes, my first job.
Your first job. What's Act One? It was a major.
It was a very large firm, dress firm, and I went there as a fit model.
Now, for us people like your host and some other people who watch the show, what is a fit model?
A fit model, basically, when they design a garment, you have to fit it on a person. So what we would do is we would tell them if the length is good, if the inseam is good, if the arm is right. You know, it's fitting the garment on you.
You mean I have to put the piece of fabric?
They put a garment on you, or a you know, what we call draping a muslin on you. And basically, before they would manufacture the garment, I would have to tell, you know, we tell them if, you know, if the shoulder is okay, if it's too wide, if it's too narrow, if the length is good, you know, knowing your arm length, is that arm length the right arm length, etc.
So you're a fit model.
Right.
And then what happens?
From there, well, I met my first husband while I was there, and
That was Doug.
That was Doug Hennig, right? And he had said to me, you know, you could be in sales. This is what you always want to do, because he said I had a gift of gab.
So that's when you went to Stargo?
No, that was I went for a firm called California Explosion. It was a rep company.
And so what do you do at California Explosion?
California Explosion, I went there as a fit model sales trainee. And he had hired someone already, but, you know, Doug had made an appointment for me. I went there, and they had me try something on, and the owner of the company said to the girl he had hired, "You're fired and you're hired." So they hired me, and I worked in the showroom.
So you were doing fit modeling and...
I didn't sell, you know, got to know the whole...
You're learning the trade.
I'm learning the trade,
You're learning
yes.
how to
find out what
walk
I'm
and
good
talk
at.
and
Right.
everything else.
At the same time.
At the same time, and that's the California Explosion. And then you get another job with another schmata manufacturer, as one would say. And
Yes.
who was that? That was the other two guys, Eisenberg and...
I went to, well, California Explosion was Bobby Eisenberg. And from there, I went to a couple of companies. Wound up after, you know, just going through the years, learning how, you know, how to, I guess, exert myself and see, you know.
Right, but you were a really good salesperson, as you said. You were selling to department stores, you had charming shops, you had Macy's, you had Lord & Taylor. And then when I was joking with you about Bosco's, I mean, unfortunately, the Bosco story is part of your life.
Well, I went to a company called Starlo, to a division called E.D. Michaels, which I eventually became a partner in.
And
you know,
learned,
paid partner.
And you also, as you said to me, you learned when you were at E.D. Michaels, you really learned the financial aspects of
Well,
business.
yeah, because when you're a real partner, you find out about the insurance and you know, being a salesperson, you know, and the guys would always say, "Hey, baby," but learning the business. And Eddie Varon and Mickey Palmer and Bobby and Dennis were very instrumental to me, and I wound up running the showroom, you know, became a very major partner in the company and learned everything. And that was where I would say Renee grew up.
So
and being a woman in that business
and then the
was very
Bosco
tough.
situations.
So I had won an award. They used to have the Best Salesperson Award, and that year Doug and I went to Arizona to the Phoenician and to win the award, be presented the award, and the next morning after I received the award is when Doug passed away.
All of a sudden.
Yeah.
So and then you come back. At this time, you have an 18-year-old son, and you're still with the company.
Yes.
So how long does that continue?
I would say it lasts a couple of years. While I was there, I met a wonderful man and started seeing him. And they were also, the buyers, everyone, it's like, okay, you got to find someone, et cetera, et cetera. And I met my present husband, Justin, and we got married in '91.
When do you decide to leave the, being the partnership and over there? When do you decide to go out on your own?
Well, from there, I went to a company because one of the divisionals had said there's a great opportunity for you. And I went to a company called Torino, T Juniors, as running VP sales manager. And eventually...
what were they manufacturing?
They were manufacturing dresses. And I went to a division called City Dress, which is very ironic. From there, as I was going to QVC, there was a young lady that worked there.
Let's before QVC. Okay, you're at City Dress, and at City Dress, you're trying to sell clothing to QVC, correct?
There was a young lady that worked there who had started trying to, and I took her under my wing, and I said, no, we're going to do it the right way.
So now QVC was headquartered, and they're still headquartered in Pennsylvania.
Right.
You go out to QVC to sell City Dress.
No, to sell garments to them.
To sell garments.
I was doing private label. I would design and develop things for them.
And what happens?
And in the interim, I was doing this line because I believed in certain fabric that would be good for a woman. That's not wrinkling, that she would be able to pack easily and everything. Because I was all about style is not about size, it's about attitude. Because I didn't like what people were making that didn't fit women. And I went to them and told them all about this, and we started going there and selling them this fabric called Slinky.
Not Slinky?
No.
Okay.
No. And while we were doing this, I met a gentleman there who was also selling a product to them in cosmetics, and we went out to lunch one day, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Why aren't you on your own?" He really got me upset. He said, "You're bright. You know what you're doing. Why don't you do it for yourself?"
Now you were doing great sales. You were selling the Marshalls.
I was selling all the Macy's, May Company.
And then so this was Bob, right?
Right, Bob Johnson.
Bob Johnson, and he said to you, "Try it. The worst thing is."
Basically said, "What the heck are you doing?"
Right. He said, "Well, what do you got to lose? If it doesn't work in 6 months, you can come back."
Right.
So what happens? You and your friend, this
young lady that was working with me, that's a funny story. And I said to her, "Why don't you come with me?"
Tell me the story.
Well, she was working there, and I said to her, "Why don't you come with me?" I said, "I'm thinking of opening up my own company." And we tell the story that it took me a year to convince her because she had twins. One of them was a little ill, had problems. And she was worried about her, making a living. And I said, one thing I will tell you, I'm a survivor. The worst case scenario, you'll go and get a job. So we got together and I went to my husband also, and I said to him, I want to, open my own company. And I was making a very nice income, and he says, why? I said, because I know I can do this, and I want to give to women out there a product that they can wear. I had a passion. So he said, okay, I'll give you 6 months. I've never let him live that down. So I went to QVC and I said to them, if I decided to go on my own, would you back me? Would you buy from me? Because I had to figure out a way of starting the company.
Getting a customer.
Right. And they said, yes, we would. So in April of 2001, Two Chicks in the Backroom was created.
Now, how do you come up with the name
Two Chicks in the Backroom? Because at the company I was working in, they merged my division, City Dress, into the corporate company. And in doing so, I went from this beautiful big office, this great showroom, to a nothing. They built a showroom, but they forgot to build me an office. So they had a closet that they were. I
was going to joke about the closet, but you, okay. So they had a closet,
and we were there. So and the showroom was first, and then you would have to find us. People would walk in the show and they would, say, so-and-so's here, and I'd go out and we would just say, well, we're just the two chicks in the back room. And I said, you know what, that's a great name. People will remember that.
So Two Chicks in the Back Room starts in
April of 2001.
April of 2001. And the world wasn't that great at that time. The tech world was changing, 9/11 happens.
Well, that's the main thing. When 9/11 happened, I said, oh my goodness, I'm out of business. Here we are, two young ladies battling a market that's primarily men, who are we? But we forged on. I had this passion, I knew I was right, and then QVC came to me with this idea because we were going to be sued for using the word slinky. They were. And I got the phone call and I said, whoa, I'm not this. And they said to me, we started doing a line for them, and they said, well, we need to come up with a name. We can't call it Slinky. So I said, I tossed around a couple of things, and I said, what about City Knits? I worked for a company called City Dress, City Knits, and City Knits was born.
And what was City Knits?
City Knits was a collection of what I wanted for women who could wear clothing that was packable and seasonless.
So what is the difference between City Knits
and what I do now?
Attitudes by Renee?
Okay. So anyway, they owned the name. They trademarked it. I went on air for a while, and
now, how do you get on air? I mean, look,
there was a person.
I realized that your Bubba said, maybe you should be in writing, all the rest. How do you become
someone? I will say, who was evidently very intuitive. There gave me a phone call one day and said, you know what? How would you like to go on air? And to be honest with you, I became dumbfounded.
So you took a screen test, right?
Well, they send you to a class. And then they have the lawyer tell you everything you cannot say. And I was dumbfounded.
And so now, but at that time, you get on QVC for these 2 minutes or 5 minutes periods of time, correct?
No, they gave me a 1 hour show.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Out of the box.
So they gave you a 1 hour show called City Knits.
Mm-hmm.
And what were you selling on City Knits?
The positioning was a line from created in Manhattan for the sophisticated woman that every woman could wear, and that's when I came up, because I was very nervous on going on air, being like a size 2 or 4, how would regular women relate to me? Because when I was doing seminars and everything, when I was working for the other companies, women would come to me and go, what do you know? Do you eat? Do you understand? So I went back and I said, okay, how do I do this? So I said, style is not about size, it's about attitude. So started there with City Knits with that phrase, and I would tell women, no matter what size you are, you're beautiful, because we all are, no matter what size we are.
So you got on the set, you would dance?
Yeah, I would show them how you could move in the clothes, and everything was so sophisticated and comfortable, and they loved it. And then came, after I went off, stopped doing City Knits, I started Attitudes by Renee with the same thing, and I trademarked Attitudes by Renee, and No More Wiggle, No More Jiggle.
And Women in Control.
Women with Control came afterwards, which is my baby.
Right. Now, I know it's not for me, but there is the T-shirt over here on the women, and this over here is the Women with Control, the stretch fabric for the sleeker look. Okay, shape enhance.
That's right.
So now,
from the slinky fabric, I decided, you know what? Tyra Banks said something on TV one day, because they were, criticizing her because she was on the beach, and someone said she looked a little plump. God forbid, she's magnificent, okay? And I remember watching the show, and she said, we all have a little something, something, no matter what size we are. And it's true. We all do. We have, something we want to control or what have you. So I said, wait a minute. So my partner, who was working on the fabric, and I said, I want to do a line called Women with Control. It's 14% spandex. You don't need a shaper. You can put it on, which is that. And came up with the phrase the first time I went on air, because QVC brought me back to do this line, gave me a shot. No shows, just hits. I go on air.
Hits means couple minutes.
10 minutes, what have you, with a pant, and it blows out. And we have another pant that's going to be on for one day, and the model, who's the large size model, Jackie, who I love, became my lucky charm because she got on air and she went like, "Oh my God, no more wiggle, no more jiggle." Because nothing moves.
So she came out.
She came out with the phrase, "No more wiggle, no more jiggle." I go home that night, call up my lawyer. I said, "You got to trademark this."
How'd you end up in QVC in London and Milan?
Okay. When I stopped doing city knits, one of the buyers said, "I know the woman who created it," and told the buyer in London. I had started the Attitudes by Renée jewelry, and I decided to do my own clothing line called Attitudes by Renée, which really was city knits, but went to London, and I'm celebrating 6 years.
And in London, is it a full hour or?
Full hour, 6 hours when I go, you know, it's 2 days. And then I just started last year in Milano, when they just opened up in Milan.
And then you're going to go to Japan or China, you said?
I want to be global. Listen.
So how do you come up with the pendant and the watch?
The pendant.
Because I think it's really interesting.
Well, the pendant is all multi-gemstones. And when I lost...
There's a story behind that.
Yes. When I lost Doug, there were some people that came to my aid because I'm here in Arizona by myself. And these lovely people helped me, you know, to take care of everything. So when I got home, I remembered that my dad, who was my life, my mom and my father in one, and he always said the glass is always half full. Don't ever look at things half empty. So I decided to make a tribute of how every woman in life, no matter what we go through or what we accomplish, is this. So it's the life is half full pendant, and we're all different size, shapes, and colors, so that's what that represents, all the people in the world, and the unity link around it.
So that's the pendant.
Right.
How'd the watch come about?
Well, I do earrings, and I, you know, went from this, and I do earrings.
You know, the cufflinks wouldn't be bad, you know, if we had...
You never know.
Never know.
But then I did the watch, you know, which also had the gemstones, so I have a whole collection. And I have people that follow me. I had a gentleman who called up at QVC and had us all in tears, and he said, "I just lost my mom, and I'm buying this for my aunt because she's having a problem losing her sister." And that fulfills me.
So separately, you would be selling the pendant and the watch on the same show? Or?
No, different. So they now introduce me as Renée Greenstein, the designer of clothing and jewelry, and whatever else comes after that.
So let's talk a bit about what's the next. I mean, are we going to have a Renée Greenstein food line? I mean...
You never know. I mean, I honestly and truly, and I tell women, no matter what you go through in life, I'm all about girl power. And
yeah, I know. Talk to me about girl power.
Well, I mean, it's, you know, I support, you know, women in need. I want women to understand, no matter what you've gone through, that you can accomplish anything. I'm a firm believer of that. Listen, I've gone through a lot of challenges in my life, and I'm now remarried. My son is great. My little luscious one, Aya, my granddaughter.
We're going to get to that in a little while.
But I've learned that you can honestly do anything you want to do. So that's where this came from. I started a new line, then I came back with Women with Control, and I just try to explain to women that you can do anything you want.
So, in essence, when you're selling the products, you're also selling a motivation for the person. They could be a small size, or they can be a large size.
That's right. A 3X is just as beautiful and just as good as an extra small.
So let's talk about those other important parts of your life. You have a great husband who's been supportive of you, that you've been married since 1991. And let's talk about your son and your adorable granddaughter that you showed me a picture, who was a model.
Yes.
She's like Hubbubba.
The apple didn't fall too far.
So tell me about...
She's a little girl I've always wanted.
How old?
She's 5 years old, going on 30.
Does she wear the clothing?
I've made her some garments. As a matter of fact, we showed a picture of she and I in my dresses. You know, I made a dress for her when I was just on air a week ago. And I say you're never young enough. You're never too young to be in control.
Now, how did your son or you and her decide to get her to be a child model?
You know, listen, my son grew up with me, and we're like brother and sister because I was very young when I had him. And when she was born, and she's beautiful, I mean, sure, everyone thinks their children are beautiful, or grandchildren, but she had a little quality about her. And she would just love, and as she grew up, she would go in my closet and find my shoes, she'd walk around. She has a personality. And
Oh, her grandmother doesn't. No, no.
but she's, you know, she's amazing. So now she had started, you know, my son at the time was working at a restaurant, and he knew a lot of celebrities and everything, and he would always have her pictures up. And from there, he went to one agency, and now she's with Ford. And she's doing, you know, doing her little things and what have you, and she knows how to do the no more wiggle, no more jiggle dance.
And what is the...
I created a no more wiggle, no more jiggle dance, which we do on air.
Now, you know, for people of the baby boomer age, you know, there was chubby checker, you know, there was the twist. So what is the no more wiggle, no more?
It's basically, you know, moving the legs, and they're showing that there's no more wiggle, no more jiggle. And my whole thing is that the tushy, you know, the fabric helps lift your tushy or make it look good. Because I'm all about women looking good, feeling good, and looking sexy at the same time.
And this is a 5-year-old granddaughter doing this.
Well, she does her little dance, you know. She does the no, because she hears me and she sees me.
You know, this is not Sprout or Nickelodeon. This is QVC, you know.
Well, she's not on QVC, but she knows the dance and she likes it.
Very interesting. And tell me about your son.
Oh, my son. My son is the love of my life. And like I said, we grew up together, and he had started out in, went to film school. He was, you know, he's done a little bit in this, you know, production, line producer, what have you, but he had to make a living. You know, it was funny because when he told me he was having a baby, I said, okay, well, you've got to grow up. He said, he said, when you grow up, I said, I guess you're not going to grow up then. You know, because I still love dancing on tables, and he's starting his own company now, and he's a great dad and a great friend.
So, you know, it's interesting, you know, if you take the Canadian who originally went to Pennsylvania, I mean, but you're also in Pennsylvania because of QVC.
Ironically, huh?
You know, it's really ironic. And you went there for theology. I mean, this was, I mean, I could have seen you as being a female rabbi, okay? You know, it would have been... right. We would have had that, you know, and then from, you know, furs to fitting rooms to having your own, you are truly a New York story, even though you're a Canadian story.
Well, I'm a New Yorker.
Okay,
I'm totally New York.
You're a total New Yorker person. And I think, you know, I'm certain that my wife is going to be very happy with the product placement. Now, you know what? I like a large one over here with the Stoller Report or Building New York
we can do
logos.
That.
Okay,
we can do that for you, definitely.
But more important, I think what you've accomplished over your career and what you've really accomplished in another way by really making women feel good about themselves. I think that's what makes Renee Renee. And thanks for being here today.
Thank you.